as they may be reached. At such time, all interested parties will be given an opportunity to be heard. Application number 827-19, adjourned from December 10, 2019. Rosemary Eastleap, permission, when you hear your name, you just come on up to the podium. Permission to leave driveway having side yard of 3 feet instead of required 4 feet. Residence AAA District, east side of West Lane, 85 feet north of Okanee Walk, Bayshore.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Could please give us your name and address for the record?
Rosemary Islip, 61 West Lane, Bayshore, New York.
Do you recall what the adjournment was from? What was the purpose of the adjournment?
The adjournment was originally for raising the roof to 17 feet from 14, and we built it 14. However, the planning department found that there was a 2-foot dimension on a site plan, final site plan, which he agreed that he had erroneously read it, that it was 2 feet from my neighbor's shed to the property line. That's what it was pointing to. But he says, but it looks like your curb of your driveway, which is a gravel driveway, is less than 4 feet, which is required. So that's where we stand. And so we took that adjournment, and since it wasn't closed, we made it into this request to variance for a side yard of a driveway, which slopes away from the neighbor's driveway and is planted, and
You're here tonight just for the driveway?
just for the driveway.
Okay. Any questions from the board? No. Anyone else like to be heard on this application? Planning, do you have any? All right, I'll take a motion then.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Application's granted. Thank you.
Thank you.
Application number 595-23, Mark and Kristen Dworkin. Permission to leave 6-foot fence having front yard of 1.2 feet instead of required 10 feet, and 4-foot fence having setback of 6.5 feet from street pavement edge instead of required 8 feet. Residence A District, northeast corner of Shinnecock Lane and Timber Point Road, East Islip. Is anybody here on the Dworkin application? Oh, boy. Application number 596-23, Glenn and Melanie Mastroberti. Permission to leave diving board having side yard of 5.3 feet instead of required 10 feet. Pool equipment having side yard of 5.6 feet instead of required 6 feet. Is anybody here on Mastroberti? Oh, boy. You know, they both had other applications. Maybe they thought it was at 401 Main Street. Application number 597-23, Obrina Johnson. Permission to leave above-ground pool having rear yard of 6.1 feet instead of required 10 feet. Residence B District, north side of Moffett Boulevard, 100 feet east of Cullen Avenue, Islip.
Good afternoon.
Good evening. You could please give us your name and address?
Obrina Johnson, 89 Moffett Boulevard, Islip, New York.
You here just for the pool and the
Yes.
side yard?
Correct.
Any questions from the board on this? No questions. Planning, you okay with this? Does anyone else like to be heard on this application? Yes, please come up. You could step aside and let her speak.
Hi, my name's Carrie Rubino. I live at 93 Moffett Boulevard, which I believe is right next door to you. My concern is, one, the age of the pool. I don't know if it's new.
If
since
you could
bought
speak
the
to us,
house.
please.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know if the pool is new since they bought the house or if it has been there, in which case it's a very old pool. The people behind me raised the grade of their yard, so whenever it rains heavy, it floods, the yard floods. My concern is that older pools, if it is an older pool, their seams always eventually give way, in which case it will not only flood my yard and my crawl space, it will flood out my boiler room and my garage,
Okay, so your concern is
the flooding, if there's a problem.
all right, thank you. How old is the pool?
The pool was there when I bought the house,
When did you buy the house?
5 years ago.
Okay, so, all right.
I think you normally get about 25 years out of an above-ground pool. I mean, we've heard hundreds of them.
Yeah, the pool, I don't have any issues with it. Maintain it. It's open right now. Use it every year, so I haven't had any issues with it.
You use it in the winter?
No,
And it's not leaking?
not leaking.
You're gonna make sure it doesn't leak?
I'll make sure it doesn't
Okay.
leak. If it's leaked, change the line or replace it.
Anyone else here like to be heard on this application? No? Any other questions? Take a motion then?
I'll make a motion that we grant the application.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Application's granted.
Thank you.
Application number 598-23, Brett Werner Herx. Permission to leave shed having side yard of 1.2 feet and rear yard of 0.5 feet instead of required 2 feet each, and pool deck having rear yard of 1 foot instead of required 6 feet. Residence A District, west side of Natick Street, 112 feet south of Spur Drive South, Islip Terrace.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Roxanne Trella, Dynamic Expediting Services, with offices at 1040 Terry Road, Ronkonkoma, New York. We are here today for a shed. It's a small shed, 10 by 12. It's been there for over 5 years. Maintains a side yard of 1.2 instead of 2 and a rear yard of 0.5 instead of 2. The neighbor that would be mostly affected has their shed in the exact location right next to it in their yard. And then we're also here for a pool deck. It's not necessarily a deck, it's more of a platform. It's only 5 inches off the ground. And it maintains a rear yard of 1 foot instead of 6 feet.
Okay, good. All right, thank you. Any questions from the board? No? Planning, do you have any questions? Is there anyone else would like to be heard in this application? No? Motion then?
Grant the application.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, application's granted.
Application number 599-23, Rogelio Ramirez and Lillian Najarro Cartagena. Permission to leave roofed over porch having front yard of 19.4 feet instead of permitted encroachment setback of 20 feet, roofed over patio having side yard of 8 feet instead of required 14 feet, and shed having rear yard of 1.5 feet instead of required 2 feet. Residence B District, north side of East Cedar Street, 250 feet west of Nickel Avenue, Central Islip.
Good evening again, members of the board. Roxanne Trella, Dynamic Expediting Services, with offices at 1040 Terry Road. Again, we are here for a shed. It's 12 by 12. It's been there for over 10 years. It has a rear yard of 1.5 feet instead of 2 feet. We're here for a roof over front porch, just slightly under the permitted 20 feet. It comes in at 19.4. Based on aerials, it's been there as well for more than 10 to 15 years. And the last item is the roof over side patio. It maintains a side yard of 8 feet instead of the required 14 feet.
For the patio, is there any precedent on that?
I did speak with Deirdre earlier, and she says that there was a precedent for the roof over patio.
Any other questions from the board? Planning, anything else? Okay. Is there anyone else that'd like to be heard on this application? And is your client okay with not enclosing?
Yes.
Okay. So we'll take a motion then. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, application's granted.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Application number 600-23, Anna and Starlin Silverio Francisco. Permission to establish accessory apartment resulting in floor area ratio of 27.5% instead of permitted 25%, and to leave shed having side yard of 1.4 feet instead of required 2 feet. Residence B District, east side of North 6th Street, 340 feet north of Victory Drive, Ronkonkoma.
Good evening, Christine from Accurate Expediting, 286A Belmont Avenue, West Babylon, New York, 11704. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. As stated, permission to establish accessory apartment and floor area ratio of 27.5% instead of 25. A shed to leave, 1.4 feet instead of 2 feet. And that is it. The driveway was inspected. Everything was approved with that.
Okay. Any questions from the board on this one? No? Lanning, any comments? No, is there anyone else that would like to be heard on this application?
Make a motion, we approve the application.
Second, all in favor? Aye.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Yep.
Okay. Working?
Yes, oh, no, 595, the first no-show. They both are sent back, so. Application number 595-23, Mark and Kristen Dworkin. Permission to leave 6-foot fence having front yard of 1.2 feet instead of required 10 feet, and 4-foot fence having setback of 6.5 feet from street pavement edge instead of required 8 feet. Residence A District, northeast corner of Shinnecock Lane and Timber Point Road, East Islip. You went to the wrong location, right?
Yeah,
Sorry about
there was a couple people there, and the person
Oh.
who works the building had no clue that the meeting wasn't happening there.
Yeah.
So he just kept saying it's an auditorium. We're like, it's empty, sir.
Well,
So I
sorry
apologize
about
for being
that.
late.
Yeah, we should have reminded you in the office that we changed location. Sorry.
Thank you.
Could you just give us your name and address?
Oh, sure. Mark Dworkin, 33 Shinnecock
It
Lane.
was a sign the first time. but I guess I took it down.
Are we here just on the fence then?
Yes.
So the applicants, this is their third time before us. First 2 times they were at 401 Main Street. They put in a pool, got the permit, we approved it. We saw this lot as more of a through lot than a corner lot. If you can look at the aerial, you'll see what I mean. And then there was a patio on the plan that the town didn't include in the first application. So we had them back again for the patio, and we granted the patio. And now the building department has noticed that there's fencing that needs variance as well. So this is their third time before us trying to close out this pool permit. The 6-foot fence is at the widest part of the lot behind the house on Timber Point Road. So it actually has a fence to secure the pool as well. And then the 4-foot fence that referenced is sitting there in those evergreen, it's like a low evergreen shrub, and the 4-foot fence kind of sits within it, right?
Yes, exactly.
And the applicants were directed to find out where the edge of pavement was, and lo and behold, it was 18 inches closer to the edge of pavement than it was supposed to be. So this is their third trip here. Right. We gave them a really good price for the application fee, though, the second 2 times.
Thank you.
You know, I recall this one, and then we did view it as a through lot,
Mhm.
and it is a through lot, 2 streets, so I don't have a problem. I hate 6-foot fence. Like,
Any other questions on the board? Planning anything? Is there anyone else that would like to be heard in this application? No? I will take a motion. then.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, application is granted.
Great. Thank you so much.
We hope we don't see you again.
Don't come back here.
Okay, we'll go back to
102.
102. Application number 102-23, adjourned from February 7, 2023. Twanwanti Sukram.
Good afternoon. Wanti Sukram, 8 Violet Street, Central Islip.
That's good. Now I'll read the call of the meeting. Permission to leave 1-story addition, 10.5 by 16.2, having side yard of 11.4 feet instead of required 14 feet. Above ground pool having side yard of 8.8 feet and rear yard of 10.3 feet instead of required 14 feet each. Fish pond, 6 by 8, having side yard of 2 feet instead of required 4 feet, and rear yard landscaping of 30% instead of required 40%. Residence A District, west side of Violet Street, 62.58 feet north of Bow Lane, Central Islip.
Good evening.
So that's the real reason the applicant is back. So, yeah, she was before us in February, and we began the hearing with the applicant handing up photos saying she had just removed some of the front yard, the impervious surface in the backyard. So I think the first call of the meeting was like 7% rear yard occupancy, some very low number.
Right.
So she showed us photos, showed she had recently removed some things, so the board asked her to get the property resurveyed to see what the results would be of those impervious surfaces being removed. And we believe it's at 30% now. And
Yes.
in removing some of it, they discovered a little fish pond existed underneath some of it, and they'd like to keep the fish pond as well.
What do we need to do to get this to 40%? Either do you have a percentage of what you recommend we do to? Okay, why it says rear yard of 30 instead of 40?
Yeah.
40 is just-
They're at the limit of what we want.
Oh, we go down to 30?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Yeah, who knows?
Learn something new every day.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
So you okay with this plan? Anyone else have questions from the board?
No.
Is there anyone else who would like to be heard on this application? No? All right, take a motion.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Application's granted.
Application,
Want us to
oh, all
revote?
done. We'll send you a decision in the mail, and you can bring that to the building department. Application number 601-23, Christopher and Andrea Boniello. Permission to erect second-story addition, 38.7 by 47, irregular, leaving side yard of 13.7 feet instead of required 14 feet, and one-story addition, 5.2 by 6.8, leaving floor area ratio of 31.5% instead of permitted 25%, and to leave patio and driveway having side yard of 0.9 feet instead of required 4 feet. Residence A District, north side of Kimberly Place, 96.25 feet west of Jackson Avenue, West Islip.
Good evening. My name's Sean Baird. I'm the architect for the project. Office 1049 Park Boulevard, Massapequa Park, New York, 11762. I have some handouts for the board members.
Sean Bird, SB.
I am before you for my clients, Mr. and Mrs. Boniello, 341 Kimberly Place, West Islip. Currently, they have a one-story ranch-style home. It's an existing converted garage. Under this proposal, we'd like to convert that garage back to an actual garage, open up the first floor to living space, and propose a second-floor addition for the bedroom space for their 3 children and themselves. 3 variances we're before you for is an existing non-conforming side yard of 13.7 where 14 feet is required. Like I said, the existing side yard itself is at 13.7. We're proposing putting the second floor directly over the existing first floor wall. Second variance is for an existing driveway of 0.9 feet on the side yard setback, 4 foot's required. This driveway was pre-existing to when my clients purchased the home in 2013. Like to remain as is. But we could make a condition that if they ever decide to change the driveway, we would put it in a conforming location in the future. And lastly, we're before you for a 31.5% floor area ratio where 25% is required. In the packet I gave you are 3 cases that were before this board. They're all granted. Application 110-05 at 317 Martin Drive at 31.6% dated February 2nd, 2005. Application 654-08, 329 Martin Drive, 31.5% dated November 18th, 2008. And lastly, 389-11, 1980 Jackson Avenue, which was granted 32.1% dated October 25th, 2011. I'd like to note that last application I did tell you that is in Zone B. It's not in Zone A. But if you see the map that I gave you in the back of the packet, it is a half a property over from Zone A. It's 400 feet from our property. We think that serves as precedence for this case. So here for any questions you may have.
Board have any questions at this time?
No.
Planning, any comments? Is there anyone else who would like to be heard in this application? All right, take a motion then.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I make a motion to grant the application.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, application's granted.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Application number 602-23, Henrio Monville and Linda Monville Jean. Permission to establish accessory apartment pursuant to Islip Town Code Section 68-602, and to leave shed having rear yard of 1.5 feet instead of required 2 feet. Residence B District, east side of Pine Grove Boulevard, 252.86 feet north of Elm Drive, Bay Shore.
Good evening. Maria Hickey, Victory Expediting, 606 Johnson Avenue, Suite 25, Bohemia, New York, 11716. So I'm here to ask for permission to establish an accessory apartment and to leave the shed in the rear. And the driveway is more than sufficient for 4+ cars.
That's been approved by engineering?
We're dropping off the check, right? We have the new survey and we're bringing the check over probably tomorrow.
I don't know if that answers the question. Was it approved?
Well, this will be conditioned on.
Yes.
Sure.
Was approved? It was approved. We're finalizing, sorry.
No, it's okay, no.
Making sure.
I see that.
30 thing to 30 verse 40, right?
Well, that fixes. That was an aberration.
I think it was a moment.
Are you okay with this? Any questions from the board?
No.
Is there anyone else that would like to be heard in this application? No. All right, take a motion then.
Yes, I'll make a motion.
It's subject to engineering approval.
Subject to engineering.
For a period of
And,
3 years.
Is it 3 years?
Yes.
3 years.
Got it.
That's what we got.
Is that 2 aberrations?
2 aberrations.
In a row.
I'll second the aberration.
My company name, Victory.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right,
Thank you.
Oh, boy. Application number 603-23, Joseph and Justine Zerbo, permission to leave above-ground pool having front yard of 7.5 feet instead of required 20 feet. Residence B District, northwest corner of Hamilton Place and Scott Avenue, West Islip.
Good evening, Joseph Zerbo, 312 Hamilton Place, West Islip. 11795, I don't know if you need that.
It wasn't built yet. The pool's recently constructed.
The pool's already was installed.
Really small.
You have a photograph.
Oh.
Yeah, it's small. I don't get no problem with that.
Yeah.
There was a mistake on my end where I screwed up. I misunderstood the setbacks. I thought they were at 5 feet, not 8 feet. So everything was off from the original by actually 2.5, because I was like, go a few extra inches over just to make sure it was safe. And when the survey came, he said, you know, your setback's at 8 feet.
Hang on a second, hang on. You got a written document. Didn't you appear before here?
I had appeared before here
And
last,
gave you a decision.
that was at a 10-foot setback,
Okay.
which was okay. And
Wait.
Okay.
It said 10. It didn't say 8 or 9 or 20.
no, it didn't say anything less than that.
So you knew it was 10. We told you it was 10. You got a document that confirmed it was 10. And somehow between that, it got moved to 7.5.
Everything was actually where it was originally. I just misunderstood the number. I would have submitted for 7.5 had I had realized that it was 8 feet instead of 5 feet.
You thought you were building at 10, but you were wrong.
Yes, that's exactly what happened.
Based off of what, the fence location?
I thought the when I looked at the survey, I thought the encroachment was 5 feet off the property. I misunderstood something on there. I didn't realize it was 8 feet and the fence line was actually at that area. So that's where I was.
Take out where the pool, usually the pool company does it. Don't they? I mean,
Well, they did based off what I had shown them in the picture. The picture has it where it was intended to go originally. I just screwed up with.
It's not hugely important, I'm just trying to figure it out. The pool company shows up, bunch of burly guys, and women, I guess, and they come with
Burly women?
equipment, and they just say, where do you want it, sir?
Well, no, they had asked, and based off what had put forward, I had showed him where I was putting it. And I thought that's what I was requesting was the right number. No, I had kind of roped off my own area in terms of what I thought was the right spot, and then when he looked at it. Yes. Semi. It was a partial. Above ground, I saw on the paperwork. I mean, every time they came, they inspected the pool because I was going through the inspection process.
I was
So
just, we were
that's how it
thinking
came to
maybe it was
fruition.
like a different pool and that's why the miscalculation happened.
Any questions? Is there anyone else who'd like to be heard in this application?
Make a motion.
Aye.
Thank you.
What's that?
So this is- The next application is application number 540-23, Ugor Ulusoy, to renew permit for two-family, family use only. Residence B District, east side of Keith Lane, 100 feet south of Ryan Street, West Islip. Is anybody here on the application of Ugor Ulusoy? This is the second non-appearance for this applicant. They are seeking to renew their two-family, family use only for the first time. I contacted them after the first no appearance and left a message, and again, we sent them a public notice, and they haven't responded to it.
Should we make a motion to decline
Strike
it?
it from the.
I think so,
Decline and strike it
yeah.
from the calendar?
I think dismiss would be the right word,
Okay.
but
Well,
that's
I
up,
like this one.
okay.
Does anyone want to make a motion to dismiss it?
I'll make a motion to dismiss it.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, the application's been dismissed.
The whole thing.
The whole thing.
Well, that allows any actions to take place that might take place. Is it 6:30? 6:31. Sorry?
So there's 95.
Can you let the record reflect that?
Is this the house?
Yeah, flick some, those are recent photos.
Just leave it. Don, just leave it.
They were
Yeah,
here.
I don't think we're allowed to discuss that.
Yeah.
They haven't showed, yeah.
Well, then they can make the application, come in and say,
I guess it is it's a permit runs with the owner, not with.
That's true. But I mean, you dismiss it with prejudice for whatever period that you give them is 3 years.
Oh, for the next 3 years, they can't
Right.
apply?
Because that's the period that they're applying for. Screw that up.
Yes, probably. That's right.
yeah, let George make it.
Sure.
Well, it's not a two-family anymore, so.
Yeah.
That's-
Right. So when they reapply, they tell them to get the other tenants out?
Our ultimate legal counsel.
I don't see the next applicant, but I'll call it, and maybe he's out in the hall and he'll hear me.
Thought he
Oh,
was
has
here.
anybody arrived on Michael Mastroberti? Oh, Glenn and Melanie Mastroberti? No, okay.
Rich Lane in hand.
It's Anthony Guardino, he's not me.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
right,
saw-
there
I
he
saw him.
is. Application number 604-23, Rich Lane Enhancements LLC. Permission to erect industrial building, leaving side yard of 35.3 feet instead of required 48.5 feet, and sound attenuation wall having height of 8 feet instead of permitted 6 feet. Industrial 1 District, south side of Ray John Road, 642.42 feet west of Sylvan Avenue, Bayport. Mhm.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Anthony Guardino, law firm with Farrell Fritz in Hauppauge. I represent the applicant, which is in contract to purchase this property from Rich Lane Enhancements LLC. This site, I believe the board is familiar with because this is the second time I'm here for a variance application. It's 3.25 acres roughly, located on the south side of Ray John Road. It's part of the Bayport industrial area. It's surrounded on 4 sides by industrial uses. My client's seeking to build a almost 50,000 square foot, 1-story building that will have a height of 48.5 feet, where 4 stories and 60 feet are permitted in the industrial zone. When we started this process, the application was fully compliant. We went directly to the engineering division. No planning board, no zoning board. Since then, I've been to the planning board and been here twice now. So what happened there, just briefly, is that after we filed with the engineering division in April of 2022, we found out during that review that the town board had amended the code and changed the setback requirement that only applied to the front yard and to the west side of the building. we came here and we did get that variance in December of 2022. The board unanimously granted that. We went back to the engineering division and they continued working on it and working on it and working on it like they do. And in the meantime, the town board decided to change the code again. And now they're requiring a setback variance on the west side. The building has not changed at all. The only time it changed was to comply with what the planning department was asking my client to do. And the sound wall was also a request of the planning board. They wanted my client to put up a sound wall to block the noise from the loading docks that might travel to Bayport Meadows Estates and also to the Bayport Gardens apartments that have not been constructed yet, but that have been approved. My client was willing to do that. We were told by planning that we didn't need a variance because as long as we attached the wall to the building, it was going to be considered part of the building and we wouldn't need the variance. I don't want to get in the middle of planning and engineering because engineering views it differently. So I'm here. I said, let me just ask for the second variance. My client doesn't care. They'll build a 1-foot wall, a 8-foot wall, a 6-foot wall, whatever this board will grant them, they'll build. But the wall is really just to accommodate the planning department's requirements. So that's essentially the presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
No.
Anyone else who would like to be heard in this application?
That's good.
Aye.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Application number 605-23, Patrick and Erica Vaughn, permission to erect second-story addition 21.8 by 23 and to leave roofed-over patio 19 by 21.8, resulting in floor area ratio of 38.61% instead of permitted 25%. To leave shed having rear yard of 1 foot instead of required 2 feet, and driveway having side yard of 1.5 feet instead of required 4 feet. Residence B District, east side of Avis Drive, 360.29 feet north of Avis Drive, Holbrook.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Charles J. Brody, 30 Bethesda Lane, Sable, New York, representing the homeowner.
Hello, Mr. Brody.
Hi, Mr. Wexler, how are you?
Good.
I'm
You can't be good when you start off.
No, can I work backwards on this and then I'll, or,
When you see 38.61
Yes. Yes.
to 25, you must
Yep.
have just buku precedent. I mean, you must have a.
yes, no, I had a plan.
20.
No, I had a plan involved.
Yes, please.
The plan was the roofed over patio in the back. We were going to remove the roof to make it a trellis. So that would reduce the square footage and reduce the FAR down to 33%. But in speaking with planning recently, unfortunately, there does not seem to be a precedent for 33%. So we are actually back to the maximum of 30% request.
Oh, that was easy.
See?
So would you like to amend the call of the meeting?
Yes, if we could do that. Thank you.
30% even.
30%.
Correct.
So we'll strike dimensions from the call, right, because you're changing them slightly?
Yes.
We're also,
And then also seeking permission to maintain the
Shed.
setback to the driveway and the setback to the shed.
and also we're removing the roofed-over patio from the call of the meeting.
Right.
Nobody thought 38 was going to fly.
No. But I had a plan, but I had a plan.
We're here.
I thought it would.
All right, so ultimately, we've got, the call would be resulting in floor area ratio of 30%, right? You don't want to list the dimensions?
No, because I don't know what they're going to be. Somehow you're going to take it from 33 down to 30 and those dimensions.
Yeah, I'd have to change the dimensions on the proposed to make it work.
Resulting in a floor area ratio of 30% instead of permitted 25% to leave shed having rear yard of 1 foot instead of required 2 feet, driveway having side yard of 1.5 feet instead of required 4 feet. Right?
Yep.
All right, any questions from the board on this? Planning, any comments? Anybody else like to be heard on this application?
Make a motion, we approve the application as amended.
All in favor?
Aye.
Granted.
Application number 606-23, Alexander Policastro and Christina Mucaria. Permission to erect one-story addition, 19 by 36.5 irregular, leaving side yard of 10 feet instead of required 14 feet, and total side yards of 24 feet instead of required 28 feet, and to leave duck pen having rear yard of 2 feet instead of required 10 feet. Residence A District, south side of Burrard Boulevard, 342.56 feet east of Montauk Highway, Oakdale.
Good evening again. Charles J. Brody, architect, representing the property owner. As stated in the call, we're looking to construct a one-story side rear addition, requesting a side yard setback of 10 feet instead of the required 14 feet, and leaving a duck pond with a rear yard distance of 2 feet instead of the required 10 feet. Now, when talking with planning, there is precedent on the side yard setback, and there was a letter introduced to the board with the neighbor on the south side not having any objection to the proposed addition. No, the ducks are pets. They are pets. Yeah. I'm sure they can, yes. The area that's fenced in has some other vegetation in there for plantings, for vegetables, but they could move the duck pen if required.
No questions.
Planning, any comments on this? Anyone else who would like to be heard of this application? How far off can we move the duck pen? Can they comply with the 10 feet?
I'm sure we can. We could do that. Yes, please.
So we're going to remove from the application the duck pen having rear yard of 2 feet.
That's being stricken. So I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Okay, thank you very much. Have a good night.
Oh, granted, no, wait, we didn't take a motion on
Yeah.
it.
The application.
Oh,
He amended, second, and now.
I'm
we
sorry.
have
I
a
apologize.
Motion on the application.
All right, motion to grant the application.
All in favor?
Thank you now.
Bill seconded, right?
Yeah, no, I get it, the formality of it.
Yeah. All right. Application number 539-23, adjourned from August 15, 2023. Oh, I'm sorry, Steve, you're here on the earlier one also. Application number 607-23, Stephen and Mary Beth Mascola. Permission to leave in-ground pool having side yard of 10.9 feet instead of required 14 feet, and shed having side yard of 1.7 feet instead of required 2 feet. Residence A District, east side of Campbell Lane at intersection with Doris Place, East Islip.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Madam Secretary. For the applicant, Steve Bertolino, 130 West Main Street, East Islip, New York. Mr. Wex, I'm glad to hear that you still love the Ducks. I don't know if you recall the Islip application for Wendy's, when I told you about the Ducks crossing the street, and I think that was when you gave me the approval. Yeah, well, you did not, but the board did.
Probably a dissent on that.
Yeah, but anyway, you were definitely a dissenter because it was you and I that went back and forth across, about the ducks crossing the street and how if they could make it, the children certainly should be able to make it across the street.
I don't see many dead ducks.
No, and Wendy's has been thriving for a while, so it's all good. Anyway.
They serve a full crop.
And I thought that too. I said they're pets and then they become the food. Anyway, on this one, I'd like to point out that the pool was put in pursuant to a permit that was submitted to the town with a 10-foot setback on the side and 14 in the rear. I don't know how it missed zoning review the first time around, but we did get a permit issued for the install of the pool at 10 feet off the north side of the property and 14 off the rear. The pool was installed. The surveyor went out to do the final inspection, and lo and behold, we've got 10.9 feet. So this time, the ruler actually worked in a better favor. However, we're off by 4.1 feet because somehow it got messed up in the zoning department. So I have no other excuse other than we submitted it, we did everything right, and lo and behold, it turns out that it was a 14-foot setback the whole time. Yes, they did.
Built it at 10 feet.
We actually built it at 10.9, which you know is usually with 9.9 or something like that. And, well, no, we didn't know. It was submitted at 10 feet because I guess we thought it was a 10-foot zone, and it went through all of the checkpoints within the town. And here we are now, when it's up for final review, it's actually off by about 4.1 feet. 3.1.
Oh, here we go.
No, it's on the permit. I would never do that. On this case.
That's on the record.
On this case. That's all I have.
On this. Any other questions from the board? Anyone else would like to be heard in this case? I'll make a motion.
Second.
All in favor? Case is granted.
Application number 539-23, adjourned from August 15, 2023. John Mundros and Margarita Eliadis Mudros. Permission to erect detached garage 24 by 37, leaving rear yard of 5 feet instead of required 10 feet. To leave 6-foot fence on property line not having required setback of 10 feet, and driveway on property line not having required setback of 4 feet. Residence AA District, southwest corner of Aberdeen Road and Flower Hill Lane, Bay Shore.
Yes, good evening once again, same appearance. I think this is the hardest application I have tonight before the board. And I want to start off with the fence, if I could. So the fence on Flower Hill, my client strongly believes that this is a 4-foot fence, not a 6-foot fence. I did discuss with him that it's called out on the survey as a 6-foot fence, but the fence is actually 4 feet in height, and then it has some decorative, how should we say, spikes coming up on top. And he believes that when he bought the house, he was given some documentation at the time of closing that indicated that the fence was properly CO'd from the town. I've had a nice explanation with him, the difference between what he obtained at closing and what you received from the town. So with that, we'd like to make the application before the board for a 6-foot fence, which is on the property line on a second front yard. And certainly, if the board saw fit to grant that application, we would take the grant. If the board saw fit to deny that application, I would respectfully request if you could leave the hearing open so my client could go through his records from closing and see if he does have a specific document that indicates that this is a legal 4-foot fence. And he also wants to speak to the surveyor. So
What document could you possibly have that says legal at 4 feet? What document?
Mr. Wexler, I had almost the identical question. What document do you have? And his recollection, speaking with him a few moments ago, was that he has something from closing. I showed him the CO. I have the CO in the file. I don't see any indication on the certificate of occupancy that this fence was approved by the town. Well, moving past the fence, because I know how the board feels about a 6-foot fence on the lot line there. We do have this asphalt driveway, if you will, or asphalt pad on the northwest corner. That's going to be coming out with the construction of the garage, which brings us back to the garage itself. And reaching out to Deirdre this afternoon in planning, I didn't have any precedent, neither did Deirdre. We're looking to install a rather large 888 square foot garage. My client is a collector of cars and would like some room to put the cars in there. He's asking for a 5-foot 5-foot setback and a 5-foot relaxation off the required 10 feet. There is no precedent that I have, and, you know, I looked around the neighborhood, I didn't see anything over there. I explained to my client that the board may have some reservations with this application, and that planning would, you know, not generally support a 5-foot relaxation, 50%. So if we could amend the call of the meeting to perhaps an 8-foot, which would be a much less grant from the board, my client would be willing to do that, and hopefully the board could see fit that we, you know, have done the best we can to keep this garage off of the pool. We're looking for a separation between the pool and the garage so that it's not a wall right next to the pool. I did submit earlier today to Mary, hopefully she got it, a letter from the adjoining property owner who is most affected by this application, resides at 2 Flower Hill Lane. She is in support of the application, has no objection to it. So I think in keeping with the nature and character of the area, we really don't have any garages this size. We don't have anything that comes off the lot line, but it is residential, and the most affected neighbor sees no detriment in having this built. I was out of town, and I had reached out to Mary and said, the architect had submitted these without me knowing, and Mary didn't communicate with me at all, and once I saw them, I reached out and asked for an adjournment. Mr. Chairman, the issue is the pool. So if you can imagine, there's children in the backyard and there's a husband and wife thing. The husband wants the garage for his cars. The wife doesn't want the garage on top of the pool. I know planning doesn't support it. I know this board would have reservations of giving a 50% grant. So we're trying to find a happy medium that the benefits to the applicant could be somehow obtained by granting something much less, you know, large. 50%, we can only go down to 8 feet instead.
In changing it from 5 to 8, is the idea to change the dimensions and make it a little shallower?
No, we're going to slide it closer to the pool, and I think it would make it about 11 feet off of the pool at that dimension.
Well, isn't the fence a problem too? I mean, so I think this needs work.
Well, that's why I was going to adjourn it again, but I didn't want to do that. And I said, let me make the presentation to the board. You know, the best I can do is, you know, make the application for the garage. If the board says yes, that's wonderful. If the board says no, that's unfortunate. With respect to the fence, I would just like to leave the hearing open, maybe for 2 weeks. I can find out from my client what document there might be that would surprise some of us and submit it.
So do you want to amend to 8? Maybe we'll reserve and see what you think.
I don't think it's a good idea to go for 2 weeks.
Okay,
In this document, I don't know whether it's Dead Sea Scrolls, whatever.
right. But he's changed the call with regard to the garage, so.
So you want to amend it to 8 feet. See how that applies?
Yes, sir.
All right, so I'd make motion to amend the call to 8 feet.
Second, all in favor? Aye.
Reserve decision, give it 2 weeks.
That would be great, Mr. Sullivan.
Second.
That's not leaving it open.
Why don't, I'll make a motion to leave,
Leave it open.
leave the matter, leave the decision open.
Well, Bill, you want to have another hearing, right?
No.
Oh, you said leave it open. Oh, I'm
No,
sorry.
Just let for
62 days.
the applicant to submit.
Right,
Okay,
so you can submit.
the record is
Whatever
open.
he
Okay,
I want to see the sign.
so that's a reserved decision, not leaving the. Yes, Dan, got it.
I'll second Dan's motion.
Second.
I second it.
That's it.
All in favor?
Gotta
Oh,
listen.
boy.
Wow.
All right, so reserve decision. Is to start the 2 weeks, so you can submit.
Okay, thank you.
Look at what these look like. Application number 608-23, Nicholas and Ashley Mazarakis and Jeffrey Hartman. Permission to erect detached garage 22.5 by 24, leaving side yard of 4 feet instead of required 10 feet, and 13.2 feet behind the front line of the dwelling instead of required 20 feet, resulting in floor area ratio of 32.52% instead of permitted 25%. Residence AA District, north side of 8th Street, 152.71 feet west of Norman Drive, Bohemia.
Yes, good evening once again, same appearance. So this property backs up to the Connecticut High School, and looking at the area, I did see a couple of detached garage structures. I didn't see anything that was in line with what we're requesting here tonight, and I did reach out to Deirdre on this one as well. The request for the 540 square feet, I think Mr. Wexler just alluded to that sometimes you're just a little bit over. This is, if I can use the term, only 40 feet larger than the 500. If you were taking the dimensions to get a 2-car garage, we need the 22.5 by 24. If you were to go down something smaller to 500 square feet, you'd really only have a 1.5-car garage. It's very difficult to get 2 cars in at a 500 square foot garage. The 540 size translates to a dimension of 22.5 by 24. This lot has an angle on it, if you can see from the survey and perhaps from what you have on the screen. And we're asking for the front yard relaxation from 20 feet down to 13 and change, because if we go any further back, we're actually closer than 4 feet. So we can't go further back with a 2-car garage. This is as far back as we can go. The nature and character of the area is all residential, other than the school backing up. The neighbor next door that would be most affected, I'm told, doesn't have an issue with this. I don't expect there'd be any objections. Obviously, something like this doesn't have any adverse environmental impacts out there. And I think the second issue that the board would have is the FAR. And again, speaking with Deirdre, I understand that if we went down to the 500 square feet, it wouldn't count towards the FAR. And actually, it would bring the FAR down to 28.39% as opposed to the requested 32.52. So we'd be usually within the 30% that this board grants all the time. I know this is,
I didn't follow. How did you go from 32 to 30%?
if we were to drop off the entire, the proposed garage is 540 square feet. Because it exceeds 500 square feet, you have to count it towards FAR. If we take off the entire, if we go, let's say to 500, you don't have FAR counting, so we would drop from 32 down to 28.39.
So you want, is that an application to reduce
It-
the size?
It's not, and I was just about to say, and I hate doing this because I don't like approaching these as some kind of Persian bazaar where we're negotiating in the alleyway. It's not what I want to do, but this is the application that was put in front of me to present. And I'm looking at it, and I would love to get the 4-foot setback at 540 square feet because it's only 40 square feet bigger.
But if it's just that's something we live with, but that triggers another variance that gets to 32. That's the problem.
Right.
So if you amend it to 500, then you don't have the FAR problem. And if it's variance you're seeking, I think we could all live with that. I see property.
Well, then I think what happens is if we were to go to like 22 and a half to, and this is just calculations I did, not the architect, 22.5 by 22 comes up to about 495 square feet. So if we could do 500, I actually think then the garage, we don't have FAR, we can be 4 feet off the lot, and we wind up being about 14 feet from the front as opposed to the 13. So I still need that front yard relaxation if we could amend the call of the meeting for the 500 square feet.
I hate to be a nitpicker here, but the code reads 499 or less requires 4 feet. So let's just be careful how we do it. And I'm surprised nobody is warning you yet that when applicants come too close to 500 square feet, say 496, the dimensions you suggested, when the garage gets sided and the surveyor goes back out and shoots it, it comes back in at about 520 square feet. And then you're back here for that variance for 4 foot instead of 10 feet.
I've seen those applications sitting here watching diligently. But I would,
The applicant, he's got to make it work. Mr. Berlino knows about building.
Sure, and you'd be happy to spar with him when he comes back. The garage is 520 square
Now
feet.
the record's
Right,
there.
exactly. And we love having applicants come back again when they've been here before.
so if I could make the application for the call of the meeting to be amended to 499 square feet, leaving the front yard of, let's say, 14 feet, as I think where it would wind up, instead of the 13.2.
There's no mention of the FAR.
With no mention of the FAR, because I believe we would comply, because the garage then would not count towards the FAR.
No.
Is there anyone else that would like to be heard in this application? All right, so the motion, first motion is change the call to read permission to erect detached garage, 499 square feet, leaving side yard at 4 feet instead of required 10, 14 feet behind front line dwelling instead of required.
We don't need the leaving side yard of 4
Oh, you
feet.
don't need side yard?
Are we amending the dimensions or taking them out?
No,
We're
we're just gonna
removing them.
leave it,
Removing them?
And
Removing dimensions, yeah.
inserting in place 499.
Okay.
So the, try it again. Permission to erect detached garage, 499 square feet, 14 feet behind front line dwelling instead of required.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
All in favor? Motion amended. Now we have a-
No.
Make a motion then.
Now they got public, yes.
I asked public.
Oh, you did. Then I make a motion to approve the application.
All in favor? All right. So the application is amended.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, good evening.
It's almost daylight.
Yeah.
Meetings and book.
Yeah, they do. Start in the daytime.
They're on TV.
They don't get dark.
Application number 488-23, adjourned from July 18, 2023. Victor Manuel Flores Salgado and Mayela Gonzalez. Permission to use dwelling for two-family, family use only pursuant to Islip Town Code Section 68-419.1. To leave one-story addition 16.3 by 20.3, leaving rear yard of 22.5 feet instead of required 25 feet. Addition to detached garage 10.2 by 14.2, having rear yard of 2.5 feet and side yard of 3.6 feet instead of required 4 feet each. Shed having front yard of 1.8 feet instead of required 20 feet, with accessory buildings occupying 29% of the rear yard instead of permitted 25%, and rear yard landscaping of 20% instead of required 40%, and driveway on side property line not having a required setback of 4 feet. Residence B District, southeast corner of Gibson Avenue and Pioneer Street, Brentwood.
Hi, everybody. Dana Bush, 41 Whittier Avenue, Medford, New York, 11763, here on behalf of the homeowners. I feel like I'm so loud, sorry. The first time we came, the addition wasn't on the call, so we had to make sure that that was on it this time. And it was adjourned because we were going for a lot of ridiculous things, I guess. So I spoke with Deirdre and Mary, and we came up with a plan. So now I'm back here. I did submit, I don't know if you have it, I have an extra copy here of the future plan that we're gonna do. We chose to do the 20% for the rear yard instead of the original 30 for the landscaping because they're on a corner, so half of our yard kind of gets taken away, so it doesn't leave us a lot to work with. Do you have this, or do you want me to give this to you?
Feel free to submit it.
Yeah. Deirdre.
So the pink, what we highlighted is what we're gonna take away. That's the patio, so that's gonna be replaced with the grass. The yellow is what's already there. So that eliminates the patio going all the way to the back. So we got rid of that, and we're also gonna remove the gazebo, so that takes our accessory structures down.
So Deirdre's trying to see if the gazebo was shown on the Google Maps, because that's really the significant change was the removal of the gazebo.
Yes.
Which wasn't in the call of the meeting, so, but it was implied that it
Technically,
was
yeah.
there by the low rear yard occupancy number and the high.
Because I guess
percentage of-
technically it meets setbacks, but it made up the structures.
So that's a much better image of the existing conditions. And Deirdre has the cursor on the gazebo. It actually looks more like, from the air, it looks like a.
Yeah, it's a very well-built gazebo. It's not like your Costco one, so.
So that contributed to the low percentage of rear yard landscaping and the higher percentage
Yes.
of rear yard occupancy of accessory structures, which we almost never see. But you have
That's
it.
being removed or?
So yeah, the gazebo is gonna be removed, and then we're gonna remove the whole back of that patio in between the shed and the garage, so the hot pink, and then that'll be grass and.
Planning, you have comments on this or? For the rear yard landscape.
Remove the gazebo,
Not yet, but they intend to.
but do we know what the percentages are gonna be after they remove the gazebo?
No, I changed it in accordance. We already amended it. Yeah, that's the best you can do. It's like 7.
No,
Or
that's-
what they're saying. is right? I think it was 7%. Sorry? Yeah. Yeah. Dana, do you remember what the first rear yard occupancy was? I think it was like 7.
7.6 or something, it was low, yeah. And it was like 40% accessory structures covering it. So the gazebo took up it's a giant gazebo, so.
Yeah.
It takes up a lot.
I would think we have no problems with the two-family zone.
Yeah, they meet the two-family, family use only requirements.
Yes, it's her mother.
22 feet shouldn't be an issue.
No.
Detached garage.
The addition to the detached garage was in line with the existing roof line of the garage at some point or another.
Yeah.
Some time ago, I think it got an addition.
Yeah, it was way before their time, so that's how they bought it. So I don't know when it was, but it was, yeah, it's completely in line. It's not like it goes out a lot wide or anything.
And the shed having a front yard of 1? Okay. You're okay with that?
We were gonna remove that at first, and then we looked at it and we said, that's not even helping my percentage at all. We get rid of that. Because it's so small.
I only have one photo.
Oh, yeah?
They're not,
Okay, so
mostly the fence.
there's the gazebo that's coming down.
Right.
It's pretty substantial.
And these photos here are just about the two-family. These are other properties, right?
Oh, yeah, that was all my research for the neighborhood.
Yeah, so they really don't- If you remove the shed, what does that bring you down to as far as the landscaping? Remove the shed and put grass in there.
I'm not sure. Probably, I don't know,
It
3%.
actually
Doesn't,
help you because it's in the second front yard.
Oh,
So
yeah.
it's forward of the second front line of the house. So what
that doesn't help my
Yeah, what
landscaping.
was being described to you is when it's a corner lot, they're somewhat penalized because anything that's forward of the second front yard line of the house does not contribute to the overall rear yard because it's considered front yard.
So that wouldn't affect the 29% of rear yard instead of.
If it were an interior lot,
Yeah.
it would, because it would be all rear yard.
So that's what's making the landscaping percentage a little tough because the corner.
Do we have any suggestions?
Mr. Wexler?
Comments? Anyone else would like to be heard in this application?
It's not going to change. It's not going to change.
The challenges we have with the rear yard landscaping.
Right.
Do anything on the rear yard landscaping?
Well, we're gonna try and take a lot of it, but like I said, because we're, how the corner lot is, I'm working with like a small little amount that's technically my rear yard. Well, if that's what they have to do, then that's what they have to do. Yeah, I guess, yeah.
All right, so.
What about the accessory building? On 29% of rear yard?
Right. Right. Right, I just,
Well, to get the landscaping, we would probably just take more patio. So I don't know if that would count as an accessory structure. That doesn't, yeah.
Oh, we very rarely see that. It was higher with the gazebo up. It was much higher, I think.
Yeah.
40%.
Yeah, I think I was 40, so taking the gazebo took away almost 20%.
It's not an often used regulation because generally there's just more rear yard. In this case, because it's a corner lot, and because the buildings occupy so much of the rear yard, it exceeds the 25 but not by much.
And that's our, yes.
Sort of like FAR.
Yeah. We get that number.
That's what the theme I saw. That's why I was sitting there, I was like, I'm 29. Hopefully they're sticking to their 30 rule.
The only modification to the call of the meeting would be the rear yard landscape 30% instead of 40%.
Yeah, I'll try and add more landscaping, yeah. Well, yes, I will make sure they do that.
that's, you agree to that. We're going to make a motion to amend the call.
Yes.
You're fine with that. Okay, so I'd make that motion to amend the call.
Any other questions on the application? You okay? So I'll take the motion on the application. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you.
Application number, you'll make it home, 609-23, Howard Reich. Permission to leave one-story and second-story additions to dwelling, leaving floor area ratio of 31.7% instead of permitted 25%. Roofed-over porch having side yard of 10 feet instead of required 14 feet, and retaining walls on side property lines not having required setback of 4 feet each. Residence A District, east side of Wexford Drive, 1,849.74 feet southeast of Chatham Drive, Oakdale.
Good evening. My name is John Tufel. I'm a professional engineer here representing Mr. Reich tonight. My address is 707 Route 110, Farmingdale, New York. Mr. Reich is at 99 Wexford Drive in Oakdale, is seeking permission to leave one-story and second-story additions, a roofed-over porch, and 2 3-foot-high retaining walls at the rear of his property. The zone is Residence A. Yes, sir.
Just let you know that we have no precedent for 31.7. It's an otherwise conforming neighborhood, which is 30%. So I don't know if this would be a propitious moment to bump it to 31.7. Then we just change the nature and character of the neighborhood to 31.7. So how do you get it?
Yeah, that,
Otherwise conforming neighborhood, we don't have, I mean, we have them, we have to leave them, have to opt to leave those intact.
yeah, it's hard because these are additions to the house, the garage, and then the second story.
Basic question, what brings you here today? Is he trying to sell the house, close the pool permit, sold?
No, I asked him, he said he just wants to get his ducks in a row. He's talking to his friend who said that, he's 79 years old, so he's an elderly gentleman, and he just wants to get it straightened out.
Did he recently acquire the property from Suffolk County?
No, he's been there since 1969, I think. He said he's the
Okay,
original.
so maybe for a time Suffolk County had possession of it and he reclaimed it?
I don't know. He told me he bought the house in 69, as I recall. He's been there, well, he's 79 years old.
Oh, there's a deed from April 23, so.
The tax,
Well, there's a, yeah, the tax. Here's the deed to tax.
It's 3 years to do it, right?
Anyway.
So this is good news that he's been the owner because I thought he just took possession. When did he build the additions?
Excuse me, let me check my notes here. 1979. The garage, sunroom, and the master bedroom, the one story, is the sunroom curves around the back.
It's on
Get
the
permits,
CO.
didn't get it inspected,
It's on
didn't
the
get
CO. Should be under the denial.
Yeah, he just was ignorant and,
What was the state of the code in 1979, sir?
79, right?
Oh, in 79, there was no FAR. It wasn't in existence in residence AA zoning until 1989. I'm sorry, 88. But, and it's it's A zoning. That doesn't make any sense that it would be 79 because in 89, the garage was built. And like some significant work was done on the house in 1980.
Yeah, of course, the only history I know is what the owner tells me.
Well, no, we have the CO in there, and that says that garage wood frame. Then goes on.
What's on that? What's on the survey that's not on that? Regarding this main structure?
Well, there's an addition and an enclosed porch in the rear of the house. So I guess what we could do, or the applicant's representative could do, is obtain the building department entry from 1989 to see if these additions, for some reason, were present then. But that's unlikely because currently the zoning division would hopefully be looking for that information themselves, and that resulted in this letter of denial.
Can I ask a question? If the roofed over porch having a side yard of 10 instead of 14, that's something that's doable. So it looks like you're going to be in 1-to-1. I mean, I'm just being denied 31.7.
Okay, and then we can figure out, what to do. Well, obviously, we thank you very much if you take 10 feet on the front porch. As far as the 31.7 and the 30%, I think I'd probably like to discuss it with the client and see if we can work out something. That's correct. That's my understanding. Okay, that'll be fine. Right, yes. So that'll be great. Thank you.
We were,
What does it show?
we were trying to see if the old aerials helped out at all.
Is that snow? So.
No, I think the
Clouds.
neighborhood was under construction. So what year is that, Deirdre? Okay, so it looks like in 84, there's no second story over the garage, right? Right.
Okay, so let's, you come forward to the next.
And it's there.
Oh, he has some roof that he built it hard.
89.
Okay. This is the 1 and 2 story additions we're talking about. Right.
Second story over the garage, right?
Yes, right,
And
yes.
in the back is like a enclosed kind of porch.
Exactly, right. It's just like a shed roof coming down in the back. So was proof built prior to 1989? Okay.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, thank you. Do we get a new date or we just get back to you?
Let us know when you're ready.
Yeah, I hate to advertise it again and not know that you've done all.
Okay, so we'll do a little research and then get back to you guys. Okay, thank you very much. Thanks.
Thank you.
Has anybody arrived on the application of Glenn and Melanie Mastroberti? Will, yeah, that was the night I saw.
Yeah, shut up.
Joaquin Kane.
Oh, you should. Oh, no, no, no. That was.
Just this. Oh, you're right, it was the third. Yeah.
Prejudice.
So we just have 10 accessory apartment permits to renew for a period of 3 years, and that's it.
Motion to review.
Second.
All in favor?
Thank you. No decisions to renew.
Do that.
But the reason there's no decisions to renew